Before you decide to rejuvenate your nickel cadmium batteries, you have to follow through on a few safety procedures, and always protect your eyes. So this is a face shield. This is the best way to protect your eyes and your face, because when you're doing these large current dumps, there's some potential you could either explode this battery or explode this battery. Different reasons. Could be steam pressure on this, or it could be electrolyzing the water within here or here, and you get a recombination of hydrogen and oxygen, which is an explosion essentially. So that's why you want to have eye protection, because these large current dumps, you can get outgassing in this battery or that battery, either steam pressure or oxygen and hydrogen, and they recombine with a little bit of a spark and you get an explosion. So protect your eyes. Also, I don't know, I know it works for me, so I don't wear gloves in the video here, but when you're putting in this much current through small wires, there's so much current going in there, you can almost instantly burn the insulation off these wires, and the wire will go incandescent and then it'll just burn through. So there's a real chance that you can burn yourself when you're dumping that much current through wires. So basically, I recommend a pair of welding gloves until you know what you have as far as heat and current going through your wires, because these wires, whenever I did even a few just taps on this battery terminals here from the battery post, the main battery here, these wires actually got very warm after just a few seconds of dumping current through them. So, and I know what I'm working with, but I don't know what you're working with, so that's why absolutely you'll have to wear welding gloves until you know where you're at with the heat inside your wires, because that's just so much current going through there. It heats wires up really quick. I mean, honestly, I've done it before. You can turn wire like this to red hot in about 5 or 6 seconds if you just short it between battery posts. So be aware of that. So eye protection, hand protection, and also if something does bad happen to this battery, casing cracks and sulfuric acid manages to spray, be ready to have a game plan where you can either hit the shower or hose yourself off with a garden hose. So I mean, this isn't safe stuff, so this is not something for kids to be doing, so keep that in mind. I saw a video on the web where it showed how to recharge these old style nickel cadmium batteries. I have quite an investment in them. I have probably 2 dozen. So what they recommended is either you drive the battery voltage way past what is the actual battery voltage for the D cell here, or you zap it with a lot of current. So you can either do that with a DC stick welder or a car battery. So this is 1.5 volts, this is 12 volts, this has tons of current, this has, even when it's charged, very little current. These batteries won't even charge in any of my battery chargers, just because the dendritic crystals apparently short the battery out, and most modern battery chargers now have it'll check for the current draw, and if it's too much, it'll shut itself off so you don't explode batteries, because you can obviously get too much current running through this battery, you'll build up steam and crack the casing, potentially exploding it. So we'll give it a try here. Before you decide to rejuvenate your nickel cadmium batteries, you have to follow through on a few safety procedures, and always protect your eyes. So this is a face shield. This is the best way to protect your eyes and your face, because when you're doing these large current dumps, there's some potential you could either explode this battery or explode this battery. Different reasons. Could be steam pressure on this, or it could be electrolyzing the water within here or here, and you get a recombination of hydrogen and oxygen, which is an explosion essentially. So that's why you want to have eye protection, because these large current dumps, you can get outgassing in this battery or that battery, either steam pressure or oxygen and hydrogen, and they recombine with a little bit of a spark and you get an explosion. So protect your eyes. Also, I don't know, I know it works for me, so I don't wear gloves in the video here, but when you're putting in this much current through small wires, there's so much current going in there, you can almost instantly burn the insulation off these wires, and the wire will go incandescent and then it'll just burn through. So there's a real chance that you can burn yourself when you're dumping that much current through wires. So basically, I recommend a pair of welding gloves until you know what you have as far as heat and current going through your wires. Because these wires, whenever I did even a few just taps on this battery terminals here from the battery post, the main battery here, these wires actually got very warm after just a few seconds of dumping current through them. So, and I know what I'm working with, but I don't know what you're working with, so that's why absolutely you'll have to wear welding gloves until you know where you're at with the heat inside your wires, because it's just so much current going through there. It heats wires up really quick. I mean, honestly, I've done it before. You can turn wire like this to red hot in about 5 or 6 seconds if you just short it between battery posts. So be aware of that. So eye protection, hand protection, and also if something does bad happen to this battery, casing cracks and sulfuric acid manages to spray, be ready to have a game plan where you can either hit the shower or hose yourself off with a garden hose. So I mean, this isn't safe stuff, so this is not something for kids to be doing, so keep that in mind. I saw a video on the web on how to recharge these old style nickel cadmium batteries. They overvolted. I saw a video on the web on how to recharge these old style nickel cadmium batteries. You can either overvoltage the battery or put a lot of current through the battery, and what that does, it breaks up these crystals that form over time, either through use or just being in a state of discharge. And it's a sulfate crystal, and they're dendritic, and they'll short the cells out. And most modern battery chargers I saw a video on the web where it showed how to charge these old nickel cadmium batteries that have. I saw a video on the web where they showed how to recharge these old style nickel cadmium batteries. Either they've been used once too many times, or they sat in a state of discharge, and either condition, basically you get dendritic crystals that form in there between the cells that will short the cells out, so you get a short from one end of the battery to the other. And most modern battery chargers will detect an internal short in your battery and shut themselves off. They don't want to dump a lot of current and voltage into a battery that's obviously bad, because it'll heat up potentially and you'll get steam inside the battery and it'll crack the casing, potentially even exploding it. But so, as a safety feature, all modern battery chargers, they'll check and see if it's too much current or voltage is dumping into your battery, and if it is, it'll shut itself off. So the trick is, you want to break up those sulfate crystals that are between the cells that actually are telling the battery charger to shut off. So what you do, grab an old car battery, get some clip leads, and you just, since this is 1.5 volts, this is 12 volts, this has, I don't know, 1500 milliamps. Well, that's hours, but it has some very low amperage. This has a lot of amperage. So essentially, you're just overdriving this battery with voltage and current for very short term. You don't want to heat things up, so you just kind of keep making contact with your clip leads to break up those sulfate crystals. So these batteries are completely dead as far as any battery chargers I have. And they're dead. I mean, they've been in the bottom of a bucket for the last 15 years. So I actually have a substantial investment in these batteries. So I'd like to recover them, and I'm going to go ahead and, just as a demo, there's 3 D-cell batteries in this flashlight of the rechargeable type. They're the old style nickel cadmium. And they're deader than a doornail, of course. My battery charger doesn't charge them. So basically, I'm going to take the batteries out of here, zap them on my car battery there with 12 volts and a lot of current, and try to rejuvenate them and see what happens. Since you're putting a lot of voltage and current through these batteries with a car battery, you really want to make sure you got eye protection, face protection, because there's some chance these casing on these batteries will either crack or explode, because you obviously, there's enough current running through there with the car battery, you could actually build up steam and crack the casing, or even potentially have an explosion. So you don't want a bunch of caustic stuff or vapors coming towards your nose or whatever. So make sure at the very least you're wearing some kind of eye protection. You probably don't want to be breathing. Make sure you're doing this outside. I mean, I'm doing it indoors, but not the right way to do it. So I'll go ahead and zap these, and I'll go ahead and charge the 3 D-cell batteries, nickel cadmium batteries I have in this flashlight. And they went charged with my standard battery charger, so I'll go ahead and zap them, put them back in the flashlight. You can see these batteries are dead. Pull them out, do all 3 of them. Just to give you further proof that this battery is cooked, here's a battery checker. The easiest thing in the work. Got a few problems. Okay, it reads no good. Replace. So I'll go ahead and connect up my alligator clip leads to my car battery. Keep all the same polarities, negative, positive. Make sure you get the polarity right on the battery. You plan to go ahead and put my eye protection on. Give this thing some zaps. Just basically have nails on the one. Just keep. So I'll go ahead and check this D-cell out. Tells me it's no good. So I'll go ahead and give it a couple zaps here. Oops. So I can actually feel these wires get warm. So if they get overly warm, probably a good time to lay off. Go ahead and give it another test here. Things that has problems. The slider on this thing's broken. There we go. Battery's to good. It's like magic. So That was just after a couple zaps it brought it all the way back up, really. So do that for the 3 batteries, and I'll put them back in the flashlight and we'll give it a try. So there's the flashlight. Go ahead and put the batteries back in. And this is after just a couple zaps. This thing's hard to start. I got it going. So here's my 3 batteries I just zapped. It's actually quite a bright light, really. So it's actually zapping these batteries with too much current or voltage. It really does seem to do the trick. This time around I used a set of clip leads that have a much heavier gauge wire, so this is get more spark, more current running through the wire, so get more like a spot welder this way. You definitely got to be careful because there's a lot of heat coming out of there. So give it a couple zaps, give it a rest for a while. Let it cool down and should be ready to go, actually. So these bigger gauge wire clip leads are probably not the way to go because the heat is much more intense with the extra current flow. It's actually melting stuff, so probably skip the bigger current or the bigger leads. It's just too much current flowing through the battery. My recommendation: and use a car battery to rejuvenate your nickel cadmium batteries. If you're recharging 1.5 volt D cells, C cells, or AA or AAA, go with the finer gauge wire on your clip leads, and also, all things being equal, go with a medium length wire, because the length of the wire also determines the voltage and current that'll go down from the car battery to the battery you hope to rejuvenate. Otherwise, if you go with these bigger gauge wire clip leads, it just puts too much current down to this battery and it turns into a spot welder, so you're actually poking holes through the terminals. So you don't want that. So these wires, the thinner gauge wires, assuming they're medium length, like 2 feet, and these maybe let's say these are 2 feet, you limit the voltage and current that can drop down from the car battery to this battery, so you don't overheat things. Now, if you're recharging something with more voltage, you can actually go with the heavier gauge clip leads. So the wire here, it'll send more current and voltage down to from the car battery down to this. This is 7.5 volts or something like that, 7.3. So you can get away with the putting more heat or I should say voltage and current, which eventually translates to heat when you make contact with the clip leads down here, and so you won't be doing quite the spot weld on this battery with these clip leads, as using these clip leads, these thicker clip leads up here on this battery, because basically there was just so much current coming down these thicker wire that it was spot welding my battery post, so don't want that. So Always wear eye protection. Don't breathe any vapors coming off the batteries. It's all probably very toxic. Do it outside. And this is not a project for kids, but it certainly seems to work about 98% of the time. So I recommend it if you got old nickel cadmium. And I don't think you can do this with lithium ion batteries, so don't even make the attempt.